What is going on, everybody? I hope you're having a fantastic Hump Day Wednesday. This is NYG Jeff BT 3285, and I just want to talk about the New York Mets and their most recent loss last night to the Los Angeles Dodgers by the final score of 4-3, as they unfortunately had their chances to pull off a victory here against the Dodgers last night against a pitcher in J.R. Reed, who was pretty much struggling on the mound for the Dodgers, pitching to a over 11 ERA since he was DFA'd by the Mets earlier this year. But the Mets just couldn't find a way to get the runs they needed to home to find a way to pull off the victory against the Los Angeles Dodgers. And you'll also have to wonder is why the New York Mets are not trying to put a guy like Daniel Vogelbach on the injured list, because of the fact he's been dealing with a barking hamstring. And maybe it's the best idea to not really strain him too much and put him out there on the field because of the fact that he's been dealing with that injured hamstring for the Mets. And it might be impacting what they're doing in the field, because when Vogelbach does have to come in, to spell Alonso at all for first base duties, and as well as if he gets on the bases, if he gets on the base pads when it comes to running it out, maybe it's not the best idea to put out a guy that has dealing with a hamstring injury. So you have to wonder why the New York Mets aren't being a little bit cautious with Daniel Vogelbach, and maybe if he should be a guy that should be off to the side and not really. They should try to rest up that hamstring so when he gets closer to the postseason, they could try to heal him up and get him ready for the postseason at that time. So, and in terms of Mychal Givens has definitely been struggling since he's been on there on the mound since the Mets acquired him from the Cubs earlier down by the trade deadline. Mychal Givens has at least showed a little bit of more promising signs by the way he pitched last night. So maybe he's starting to break out of that little funk that he's been for the New York Mets. So that's an encouraging sign if at least he's going to be able to pull back out of that funk he's been in since he's been acquired by the Mets near the trade deadline. So we got to hope that Mychal Givens is going to be trying to pitch to the level that the New York Mets hoped they were going to get when they acquired him at the deadline. And he's going to be one of those guys that the New York Mets can trust out of the bullpen when we get closer to the postseason, because as we know, the New York Mets did not really acquire any bullpen help when it comes to the left side of the when they didn't acquire any bullpen help on the left side of the bullpen side. So I mean, we have to hope that at least from the right side, and a guy like Mychal Givens, he's going to be able to put it together, and he's going to be the type of guy where when it gets to somewhat of a crunch situation and we need to have somebody that's going to be that bridge bullpen player to eventually get to a guy like Edwin Diaz, we can count on Mychal Givens to be able to do that, because of the fact that he's been struggling so much since we've been putting him in there that we have to see what we can get from Mychal Givens going forward. But it's a tough loss that the New York Mets suffered against the Los Angeles Dodgers when they've had their opportunities, left too many guys on the base pads. Taijuan Walker pitched about 7 innings last night, gave up 3 runs. He's pitching right now to a 3.44 ERA, so it's pretty solid still, but not exactly to the numbers that he was pitching in the first half of the season. But maybe he's just tiring out. Maybe it's just because the level of competition he's been facing lately, it's just been struggling for him a little bit. But the New York Mets are still 3 games above the Braves right now in terms of the NL East. All they have to do is just keep trending above water, and they have to try to make sure that they don't fall off completely, and they have to try to not get swept by the Los Angeles Dodgers, because the Braves are right now facing the Colorado Rockies, and even though they did lose last night 3-2 against Colorado, it's just a matter of time until the Braves should be able to handle business against a Colorado team that's not exactly on par for who the Mets are facing right now when they're playing against the Dodgers. I'm very happy with the way the Mets have played this year, but you can't keep taking the pedal off the gas when it comes to playing against these higher profile teams. And the Mets, they have to make sure that they can eventually beat this Dodgers team, because of the fact that the Dodgers are going to be one of their biggest competition for the right to represent the NL in the World Series this year. So you gotta hope that the Mets are going to be able to beat this Dodgers team in the next couple of days. So we have to see what's going to happen. I just want to go over those real quick little notes right now with the New York Mets. Mychal Givens, who has been struggling right now out of the bullpen since he's been acquired by the Mets at the trade deadline. He had some encouraging signs last night in his pitching performance for the Mets, but the Mets have got to be able to get more timely hitting. I know I'm sounding like a broken record. I don't want to sound like a bitter Mets fan right now because of the fact that they've been still playing very well. There's still 3 games above 500. 3 games above the Braves in terms of the NL East. So you just got to hope that the Mets can continue this good play and they can be able to find a way to beat this Dodgers team and just make it more where the Mets are going to show signs that they are still the dominant team in the National League going into the playoffs. Because anything we know, just because you performed really well in the regular season does not mean it's going to translate into the playoffs. Even though the Mets do have one of the biggest advantages of having the best closer right now in Major League Baseball with Edwin Diaz, arguably the top 1-2 punch in terms of the starting rotation with Jacob deGrom and Max Scherzer, arguably the manager of the year, I think he is the manager of the year, with Buck Showalter, as well as timely hitting with guys like Jeff McNeil, Brandon Nimmo, Starling Marte, and of course, Pete Alonso and Francisco Lindor. The Mets do have the formula still to win this National League. They just have to find a way when it comes to these games against some of the upper echelon teams in the National League, like the Los Angeles Dodgers, like the Atlanta Braves, like the St. Louis Cardinals, like the Philadelphia Phillies. The Mets have got to go out there and try to not only match what these teams are doing, they have to make sure that they beat them consistently and let people know the Mets are here to stay and they are going to be the team to beat in the National League going forward. But I just wanted to do a little bit of news and notes, around the New York Mets, and also just give you my thoughts about how I want to see this New York Mets finish the rest of this regular season and continue to not only beat the teams that they should be beating, but start to play at the level of the teams that they're playing against in terms of the upper echelon teams in the National League, and take care of business against teams like the Braves, the Phillies, the Cardinals, the Dodgers, the Padres. Those teams that the Mets should be able to play up to par against those teams and beat them eventually too, like the Dodgers and the Braves and the Cardinals, who are probably going to be the Mets' biggest competition in the postseason going forward. So, if you guys like this video, please hit the like button below. Subscribe if you haven't already to NYG Jeffy T3285 for more breaking news updates, chatter, and injury and roster updates surrounding the New York Mets. Turn on the bell for notifications of the next video or short dropping on the New York Mets. And let me know in the comment section what you think about the New York Mets, how they're looking right now as we hit the home stretch. We have 32 games left in the Major League Baseball season for the New York Mets. The Mets have still got a few more games against the Los Angeles Dodgers tonight at Citi Field. So we got to see how the Mets are going to do in the rest of the series against the Dodgers and for the rest of the season going forward. So let me know in the comment section what you think about the Mets right now, and if you're confident enough they're going to be able to hold on to that 3-game lead against the Atlanta Braves for the NL East crowd as we play the last 32 games of the Major League Baseball season for our guys in Queens. So, thank you very much. I hope everybody enjoys the rest of your Hump Day Wednesday, and let's go New York Mets. All you got to do is you got to believe in those boys from Queens.